Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are going into our number 2 of today's episode of Nebula Jazz. I want to get caught up with Rex. So we've seen Eugene in a strange new environment. Set the scene with me, Sam. When we come back from commercial, we fade in on a place. Where we at? What's the scene?
We don't know what the place is, but we fade in on some black boots. They're walking through like puddled, ground. The boots turn left into like a dark alleyway and down some stairs. And as we pan up, we see like a long black trench coat, broad shoulders. We see like a gray tattooed forearm. We see like a knuckle and it like wraps on this like iron door. And you see a slide open, and he's met by like 4 cat-like eyes. And after a few seconds, it creaks open, and as Rex walks in, you see it's like a bar. And there's like guys everywhere, armed to the teeth, leather jackets, and there's bar brawls going on. There's a big sign on the wall, like a digital, almost like a message board, and then you further you see there's like job postings, and there's like murder,
cool. Yeah.
there's like debt collection. All these
Right,
things.
I love the idea. I love the idea that it sort of just has a sign that says murders and like a list of jobs. Yeah. Right, and the jobs, as people are coming up, maybe there are terminals around the outside of these big glowing hollow projector signs where other tough-looking individuals are coming up. They're slotting. They have a card. Everyone's carrying these like cards, and they like slot these chip cards in, and then something will disappear from the board, and they'll pull it out, and it'll have like a picture of a face on their card and some information. They tuck it back in their chain, and they're
like a giant pig man, and he like takes like the really high bounty murder on his card and just like chuckles to himself and snorts and like starts walking out the room, and Rex passes him and just goes straight to the bar. There's about 4 or 5 stalls on the bar. There's an android behind the bar. He's quite ye old English looking. He's got like a monocle and a bowler's hat. He's like polishing a glass, and he immediately puts one in front of Rex and pours it, and Rex passes his card across the table. And,
I think the thing is like a glass rises up out of the bar, right? The bar slides open, the glass pops up and closes, and then he puts his finger in the glass, and then the tip of his finger tips back, and like some kind of like strange liquor comes out, and then it hovers over to you and floats in front of you, and you pass him the card, and he looks at you, and his head is just a silver like sphere with his manacle like soldered to it. And then he's got a mustache that's been drawn on with like felt marker, basically. And then a little speaker where his mouth would be.
Just a few lines.
A little grill, and it lights up when he speaks. The drink slides over to you, and he looks at you and he's like, "Rough day, Rex."
Rex just kind of nods and grabs the glass.
And so this is the first time now we're seeing from the barkeep's perspective, right? We're seeing back into the bar, and this is the first time we see Rex's face. And how does Rex look?
He's got his mask on, and his hair is longer than it was previously. It's kind of like mid-length and swept. It used to be like short and almost buzz cut like. It's quite hard to see. You can't really see any part of his face apart from his eyes. And he kind of just nods, and you see him just kind of like lower his mask and take a drink and then put it back on.
Okay. And so are you just like characteristically like quiet with this guy, or do you strike up a conversation with the bartender?
Just characteristically quiet. In the background, you see like these mole men. One of them like kickbacks a drink. And then
there's a gang of little like they're just short. And when you say mole men, like I'm envisioning like the like hairless, like the star mole with
exactly
feelers.
Like that.
Okay. Yeah, and they're all wearing like spacer gear, so they have like harnesses with tools hanging off of them, and they're kind of making a bit of a scene in that they're all a little drunk and kind of like making trouble at one of the tables, and the barkeep, I think he like slides over so he can look at them, and he's like, "Mole men again, sir," and he tips his head and he's like, "Look out for those."
glances briefly over his shoulder and back again. And as he does so, you see this huge. He's probably about 9 foot, and he looks kind of like he looks kind of like a rhino, but the tusks are on the sides of his head. He's got 2 sets of tusks on the side of his head. And you see him kind of stand up. He's like, "That's my drink." And then you see all the mole men kind of like hop on each other's shoulders and square up, and they start jumping all over him. And
I love the idea that as soon as the fight is about to start, 3 mole men go into battle mode and like climb on each other's shoulders.
There's like
you want to fight? Let's do this thing.
They form 2 little towers, and they just start like jumping all over him, and tables start flipping. But like everyone around them is just not even batting an eye. Like.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So so like this little like brawl occurs. Do you get involved, or do you just like watch it happen? Or even just don't even
turn
notice.
Around. It's almost like you're looking from the bartender's perspective, and it's just happening behind him, and he's just kind of like sipping. His
and we
drink.
see one of the mole men get thrown behind the bar, and he like tumbles behind the bar, and so there's this like little, and it's a fight, but it's not a like everybody pay attention to the fight. It's just it shows the background of.
It's just like so normal for this establishment.
Yeah. And the bartender he says to you, he's like, well, it's another day and no one's taken the job. And he tilts and looks at the board, and we can see on the like DOA list, right on the wanted, the kill list, we see your name, and it's like at the top with some obscene amount of credits. Right. And like we notice then that everybody else is kind of like, there are people like looking at you, and every once in a while, some newcomer will show up and be like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take him out. I'm going to get that guy. But so far, no one's been able to.
Yeah.
And and I think that somebody comes up and sits down. Someone comes up and sits down next to you. They are wearing, actually they dump a pack on the bar. So there's this like loud kind of like crash as they dump this backpack, this dusty kind of bag. And it's got a bunch of metal loops on the outside, and maybe it opens and a grenade like rolls out onto the table in front of you. So we see the pack and then the grenade roll. What do you do?
Rick's kind of like puts his hand on the grenade before he like rolls any closer, and then just kind of like picks it up and hands it to the man.
Right.
Or, I mean, he hasn't seen him yet.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is we turn, and you're holding this grenade, and we turn to see you like, hold it out, and I think there's a person in like sort of bounty hunter like Boba Fett style kind of armor, armor plates and like other gear kind of hanging off of them. Some symbols spray painted onto their armor, and they have a helmet on. But instead of reaching out to get the grenade, they put their hand up on the helmet, and like it kind of cracks open down the front and like opens up, and they pull it off, and we can see that there's a gray-skinned, black-eyed, sharp-toothed young man sitting next to you, and he puts his helmet down and he nods. And he's like, thanks. Puts his hand out for the grenade.
Rex, he stalls for a minute and like looks the kid over, and then just slowly nods his head, and kind of goes back to his drink.
So he takes the grenade from you, and tucks it back in his bag and turns back to the barkeep, and he's like, it's dry as a fucking desert in here. Give me a drink. No, fuck it. Get me 2. And he looks over at you, and he's like, and another one for. And he gestures. He gestures at you, and the bartender's like, yes, sir. And like more drinks appear, and he pours them with his little.
At that, like
finger.
Rex actually holds his hand up, and he's like, good. I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. The Sharkanoid sitting next to you kind of eyeballs you, and he's like, what? You don't want a free drink? He kind of shakes his head. He's like, I'm hurt. It's not every day you. I guess what do you call the like? Because you guys are nomadic. What do you call the like? Is it like a school of ships, or like a? You know, like what was because he wants to say he's like, oh, it's not every day you see somebody from like the school or the like.
Oh, you're like witchers.
They call it different schools. They call it the frater.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The frater, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's what he says. He's like he's a little taken aback because he's like, oh well, we don't see each other that often. So yeah, what do you say? He's a little confused. He's like, yeah, you don't see another sharkanoid every day.
Rex just kind of grins and is like, so what? We're supposed to hug, are we?
He shakes his head and he's like, no, but and like looks around. He's like, thought you would have been happy to see another of your kind, slumming with this scum. And we see like a mole man like lying on the floor, kind of try to get up. He's like, ugh, and then like fall back down.
Yeah. Rex is he kind of sips his drink, and he's like, in my experience, we're not the kindest kind of people.
Yeah, he says, well, no need for us to be strangers. And he puts out a gloved hand, and he says, Virgil.
Yeah. Rex is like mid sip, but he notices his hand and puts his drink down and shakes his hand. He says, Rex.
And he shakes your hand. He's like, oh, I know who you are. And he looks up at the murder board.
As he looks up, you see like the bounty, like it's almost like a rolling thing, and it like gets higher.
Yeah, it ticks up a little.
Yeah, there's like Rex has just done something recently and has finally made it to the news, and it like scrolls up. And he just nods. Yeah. And he jokingly, he like nods his head towards the board and he goes, interested?
He laughs. He says, who isn't? But that's not what I am here for. Now listen, Rex. I know you work alone. You got a reputation for savagery. But I have an opportunity, and it's too big for me alone. And he's like waiting to see, like, what do you say? Do you just stare at him, or?
Rex just keeps looking straight ahead, and he kind of sips his drink, and he's like, "Go on."
Okay. He puts a like a bounty notice in front of you. Puts it's that piece of like electronic paper. He puts it down, and he says, "The organization I used to work for, we'd get advance notice on these things. It's an Imperial bounty. Big one, too. Not going to be on the board for another couple of days. I figured maybe you could help me bag it."
Rex kind of looks it over.
So you look down, and we see on it, it's like kind of like Prisoner of Azkaban style, like moving image that sort of repeats itself. It like loops on the thing, and it says, wanted.
It's just basically it's like a GIF.
Yeah, it's a GIF on a wanted poster. Yeah, a semi 3-dimensional GIF.
Harry Potter style.
Yeah, and on it, we see she's wearing like a long black, like a tattered black cloak. But you recognize her face. Like she turns to the light, and she's shooting like a pistol off screen. And we can see her like porcelain white skin, the black sort of tear mascara marks of her pupil. It's Thuja.
Yeah.
And the bounty is very, very high.
Rex kind of like sips his drink, and he like puts it back on the table, and with 2 fingers he like places it on the data pad and kind of slides it back towards Virgil.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I'll be honest with you, kid, ain't worth it."
So he looks at it. He looks back at you, and he says, "Isn't worth it? What, are you scared?"
Rex kind of like shakes his head at that, and he goes, "Me? No. You? Should be."
He scoffs, and he's like, No, I'm not scared. I've fought Agarans before.
Yeah.
But I know this one's a big deal. That's why I'm coming to you for help, Rex. You and her have a history, don't you?
Rex, he kind of nods and he's like, someone's been doing their homework.
Yeah, and he nods and he says, yeah, my employers like to keep me abreast of things. Keeps me sharp.
What is the wanted kind of document say? Is it dead or alive, or is it?
Yeah. And her crimes are like it's a long list. It's got a like read more link at the bottom of all of her crimes. But yeah, mostly for the big stuff: murder, treason against the empire, kidnapping, sedition, etc.
Does it have any information about the fallout of them having a fake scepter, or is it just her crimes?
It just appears to be her crimes. Now let's get clear here. So, Rex, you think she has the real scepter, right?
No, I know it was a fake.
You know it was the fake. Okay, all right.
Yeah, which is why we fell out, because I felt like we should have given them the real
one. That's right. Yes, that's right. So do you? I mean, she's in rough shape. Like everybody else might see like a battle-hardened badass, but you can tell that she's the look on her face is one approximating some proximity to fear. She's not afraid because Thuja probably biologically can't feel fear, but like she's in danger, and you haven't seen.
Go to her, Rex.
You haven't seen her in a long time. Now, well, I mean, Quinn, would you like to offer? Would you like?
Yes, I was literally just about to click on his character. I would like to compel your compellingly heroic part of you to make you realize that while you aren't in it for the hunt, you do recognize that this woman who, deep down inside, let's be real, you totally love. You see she's in a bad place, and if anything, you feel like you need to warn her that people are after her now, and you must go to her. So you definitely take this job, but only in a way to get to her.
Okay. Yeah. So
Rex, would you like to take that compel?
Rex feels like a pang of guilt because he knows that his team fucked them over pretty bad. He doesn't know if they know it, but also and like. Yeah, part of Rex is like he's pretty lonely at this point. Like he's been going solo for a while.
Let's remind ourselves and our audience too that Rex has been, even if you're not getting back to Thuja because you love her. I think this is as much a compel on Lafreak as it is anything else. As much as you maybe feel like have your feelings for Thuja and your guilt and all of that stuff, and you see her as like a fellow warrior and you have this past together, she is the only way that you know to get in touch with the princess who
you really want to get
are desperately deeply in love with and you cannot understand that love. And I think maybe I don't know, do you want to take this compel, Rex?
I will. Yes, I think Rex realizes that he can take this job and this kid's going to be none the wiser. He's not going to help him find Thuja. He's just going to use this kid to find Thuja, and then he's going to do his own thing.
Two birds with one wiener.
So I think Rex finishes his drink. And he kind of tilts his head, and he's like, "I'll help you. How about that other drink?"
Yeah, and he looks at the bartender, and he's like, "Keep him coming, buddy." And then another drink emerges from the counter, and I think that we see this shot from behind the two of you, so it's your backs and the bartender, but there's a big mirrored like surface behind him, and it's dirty and scratched and stuff, but in the mirror we can see a reflection of the prince standing behind you, so we just see his face even though we can see he's clearly not there. And we just see him nod like, good, yes, he's on the right
like
path.
Grinning.
Yeah, exactly. He's your force ghost.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, so you have some drinks with this guy and we fade out on that scene. So let's see where Quinn is at. Let's fade in on Quinn. So help me understand, Quinn. You were in a bit of a pickle last time we saw you.
Yeah. So as the camera fades in, we are now like in deep space, and there is a massive fleet of dozens, if not at least 100 Imperial Mengasi warships, all shapes and sizes. And the camera sort of like, does one of those things where it goes through them all.
Yeah. We get the big effects shot of like the little fighter cluster moving like a school of fish. And these warships, they're like if we needed to make an analogy for like material, they would be made out of like gold filigree and like porcelain. Like they're these beautiful, like shiny,
very
like
opulent.
White, yeah, baroque and opulent spaceships. Yeah,
and imagine the opulent version of the Imperial March that clearly is what is playing right now. Something very over the top, and it sort of flows through this until it eventually, you see this giant, the biggest ship there. The most opulent. There is like, I'm trying to. It's very. I don't want to. It's like take the Gothic and then like turn it on its head. Like it's just imagine if a French king had a spaceship.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Versailles in space fleet form.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everything is like mirrored and gold, shining. All of even the engine exhaust, like the ion output, is like shining orange. Yeah, perfect. That's there's
like drapes everywhere.
The court of the Sun King. Everything's all velvet on the inside. Yeah, so good.
And it slowly dissolves into the inner halls of this ship, and there are officers and soldiers and robots. All of them very ornate. All of them very proud to be wearing their like pompous outfits and things like that.
Yeah, and there's a ton of like near humans, right? Like strange, kind of like ridged forehead, pointy eared, antennaed, various colored like humans, but they're all wearing the naval uniforms. And then all the officers are the gold skinned giants, these sort of perfect humanoid Mingasi, as we see the inside of the ship. Totally.
And the camera sort of follows along as two officers are walking together, and they're having a conversation about a prisoner they've taken on board and how he's being entirely uncooperative and refusing to be interrogated properly. And they're like chuckling about how like ridiculous it is to resist the Mengasi Empire or Imperium. And they're just like, ugh, I can't. All right, well, one of us has to tell the commander. And so it's sort of, they split up, but the camera follows the guy as he goes towards what is clearly the bridge. And it's this crazy, even like if you can imagine an even more ornate, it's like the throne room, but not.
Right. Well, no, I think there is literally like the captain of the ship sits on a throne. Like there's literally like a raised central area, and there's a bunch of people around it, and then there's the it's either a holographic display or a perfectly like clear wall, so you just see the vastness of space, and they're gold hovering sort of UI floating everywhere, and all the different like officers operating the parts of this massive ship. And then at the back there's a dais, a pillar with a big rococo throne.
And as the officer approaches, there's, the command crew running around and doing whatever the hell that is they do on this ship. But you can clearly see the outline of, and help me out here because I just forgot his name, the Commodore. I don't remember that guy's name at all. Commodore.
His name is Commodore Vasan.
Vasan, thank you. So you see the outline of Commodore Vasan looking out over the fleet out into space. And the man goes to approach him, but then the last minute like turns. And then the camera follows him, and you now see Quinn standing on the bridge in a pretty regal Mengasi uniform himself. And the guy looks at him and says, "Commander." And Quinn looks down at him.
I want to take a minute here because this is like a fairly severe costume change for Quinn, who normally just wears like a loincloth. So you're in this I use Commodore for a reason, because I envision this sort of like Age of Sail, like tall hats and like big epaulette shoulders with like braiding, like cords coming down, like huge sash with like medals and stuff, all in white, big tall shiny boots. But you're a lizard man, which makes it. Yep. Okay.
Quinn is on the ship, and he is now a member of the Mengasi Imperial Royal Fleet.
Do you have like one of those white powdered wigs?
Oh yeah, he looks
like on top of your lizard head.
Yes, just utterly ridiculous.
One of those frou-frou collars.
Everyone else is very, because everyone else is like perfectly proportioned. Like everyone on this ship is between 5'9" and 6'1". Everyone is like 150. Like everyone is like this like perfect built soldier, and then there's a giant lizard man.
Yeah, so that's the thing is
the giant lizard man.
The Mingasi especially, they're the kinds of characters that you would design in an episode of Star Trek where they visit a like genetically perfect pleasure planet, and everyone just like runs around in little short shorts, looking hot all the time. So they're just perfect looking, and then everyone hates a lizard man, but somehow you've been put in a position of power here. And so this officer comes up to you and he like snap salutes you, and is like, Commander, we're having some trouble with the prisoner. And
Quinn looks down at him and then looks over at the Commodore and sort of eases into like right by the ear of the officer and is like, go on.
Yeah, when we look up at the Commodore, because he's the one on the like the throne, you're kind of like down in the lower area overseeing the actual production of this thing. But yeah, we look up at him and he's just kind of like looking regally like kind of a statue like out at the middle distance. So you lean in and he says, well, sir, you know these Agaran types, they're so hard to break, and we've used all of the usual tactics, everything legal within the Imperium, of course, the drug therapy, the enhanced psychomanipulation, but, well, they're tough. We thought perhaps you might have some cultural insight into encouraging the prisoner to tell us where we can find her.
Quinn gives him like a wry smile and says to him, prepare the jacker hacking.
And he's like, he looks at the other officer and he's like, the jacker, sir?
And Quinn smiles. He's like, I'll be there in 10. And like sort of brutishly stomps off the bridge.
Like rolling his sleeves up.
Yeah.
And and they look at each other and one of them like he looks, the one you were talking to looks shocked, and the other one's like, well, you heard the commander? And he nods, and the two of them like rush off. And we cut to the room of the prisoner, and I can't remember the name of the actor. The guy that plays the werewolf in True Blood. The like werewolf boyfriend for a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
The guy who's married to Sofia Vergara.
I can't remember the actor's name. I think someone will look it up for me. But so he would be the character I would cast for this. But imagine him, but he's got like really long black hair. He's wearing leather pants and no shirt. His skin is that kind of like Joe Manganiello. That's his name. Thank you. His skin is that kind of like not like white skin white, but white, like, and he has the black around his eyes and kind of the black metal, like dripping makeup look on his face. And then on his body, he's got some other similar kind of scary looking black metal logo panels, in his skin. And he's hanging from some like hollow restraints, in a dark room somewhere. And he's got this red light, kind of beamed down on him. And you can see that he's been not tortured. He doesn't have like, bleeding wounds, but he's suffered somewhat. So we see him, and the doors open, and we see a team of Mingasi Imperium, I guess like tech workers come in, some tech crew, and you can tell that they're tech crew because they have like a weird Omni tool and probably goggles or something. And they're bringing in the jacker hacker device. What does this device look like? Obviously, we have no idea what it does. It's some kind of,
Right. So it clearly is, because this is a sci-fi show, but an 80s sci-fi show.
Yeah.
It clearly is like an old Atari, but repainted, and it has like little shitty knobs on it, and like an upside down Coke can that is just stuck on it that has like lights on it. Yeah.
Right. Looking at it, you can see that they just took a bunch of miscellaneous stuff and then hot glued it to each other and then sprayed it all gray and then highlighted it so it didn't look like different objects.
Yeah. But it is obviously just a bunch of trash put together, but it boops and beeps and has like a tool on it that looks like it shoots fire, or maybe something is like electric shock, but it's just trash. It's just clearly poorly designed props.
Yeah, perfect. So they bring it in, and then they unspool some like electrodes and attach them to his chest, and he kind of growls at them, and we can see he's got the kind of like wolf-like teeth that we saw on Thuja. Yeah, one of them opens it up, and he takes out a VHS tape and like puts it in, and the machine starts to hum, and he like closes the top, and
there's a screen. It has like a little line that's like.
Yeah, exactly. For some reason, it's also in EKG, and so it beeps a couple of times, and he snarls at them and kind of scares them back a little bit, and and then Quinn comes in, and so you've got this tech team that's ready to activate the device. They're kind of familiar with it. You've shown them a little bit. This is a confiscated jacker
hacker device.
technology.
Yeah. Because it looks nothing like the if it was Imperium, it'd be gold and have like flowers coming out of it and stuff.
Swooping lines and shit. Yeah.
Right.
So he looks up at you as you come in, and he's got these like yellow eyes, and he sneers at you. And you know this man. He's a recent prisoner of the Imperium, captured in battle. It's fairly rare to capture an Agaran. They tend to fight to the death. His name is Baron Marduk. And he was one of the, as far as you know, one of the guys who was trying to vie for leadership of the Agaran like war band, but now he's your prisoner. And so you walk in, and the techs are there, and I think there's another officer who's like joined you, and it's one of those like, again, sci-fi sets where it's a dark space where you're standing in a pool of light, and there's probably like walls and like a room elsewhere, but we don't get to see them.
Yeah, the shaft of light only covers about like this, because he's just so big. His shoulders and everything are just kind of out of the they're like in the shadows as well. So Quinn in this giant beam of light looks down at the man and is like, "So, Baron Marduk, looks like you found yourself in quite the predicament."
Yeah, he snarls at you. And have you talked to him before, like personally? No. Okay. Yeah, and he looks up at you and he snarls and he's like, "Huh, the Imperium's fallen a long way. Putting lizard men in naval suits, embarrassing." He like shakes his head.
Quinn looks down at himself and he's like, "I don't know. I think I look pretty good."
Yeah, and he sneers up at you, and we can see, despite his bravado, his he's sweating. We can see it catching in his like big heavy metal bass player sideburns, and he like sneers up at you, and he says, "Just like I told the last 10 pawns, I'm not telling you anything. I'd rather go to my grave than spill information."
Quinn looks over at the technicians, and he's like, "We'll see about that." And he gives them a sort of a nod, and they press a series of weird buttons. It's like
turn the dial.
Yeah, and he just starts to electrocute.
Okay, so a high-pitched whine fills the room, and we see his teeth grit, and he gets all he pulls against the hollow chains. And he groans in pain, and then suddenly, I guess you leave him there, and you can hear him moaning in pain. How long do you zap him for?
Long enough to the point where he's like visibly sweating and shaking, and he's sort of like drooling a little bit, and then I signal them to stop it, and they shut it down.
Yep, and he kind of like hangs loose. He's not unconscious, but his hair falls in his face, and he's like breathing hard.
Quinn steps from the shaft of light and sort of grabs him by the chin and looks at his face. And is like, "You'll tell me everything I want to know, because it's my job for you to tell me everything I want to know." And then he turns back to the guys who are like operating the thing. And now instead of electricity, it produces like a high-pitched squeal. And the guy's like, "Oh," just
right.
Just hacker hacking. Give me whatever I want.
Aimed at him, and like the sound waves only hit him for some reason.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh,"
sure. Yeah. So yeah, you see, it's like slow motion footage of people having like a hair dryer blown in their face, like all this like skin like peels back and he's like shaking and yeah. But there's lots of violins in the soundtrack, so we can't, it's not funny, it's scary.
Oh yeah, super scary.
Okay, yeah, and he's like moaning in pain, and we see the two technicians like look at each other like, oh no, has Commander Quinn gone too far? Like I should stop it. And the other one's like, don't you dare, he'll turn it on you next.
Quinn notices the two of them have this look on their face like, oh no, we should stop. Yeah. And Quinn goes over and turns off the device, and then looks at the two of them, and looks around the room and is like, everyone get out. And sort of like points to the door. He's like, if you won't do this, I will.
Okay. So you wanna be alone with the prisoner.
Yeah.
Let's have you make a forceful roll. Let's see if you can command the officer and these two techs to leave the
roll.
A roll.
The first of the show.
So let's have you roll. I think
forceful?
It's forceful. Let's say difficulty is 3.
Like that?
Nice.
Yeah, just like that. So yeah, you snarl at them, and they're like, it's a relief, I think, for the techs especially. They're like, I don't want anything to do with this, and they leave the room, and the officer kind of gives you a look like, I don't trust you just yet, but I'm going to leave anyway because you're frightening to me, and and he turns on a heel, and we hear the hiss of a door as the three of them leave the room.
We suddenly realize how Quinn got promoted so fast.
Yep.
Like in this very moment.
Yep. And and so has the machine just been on in this whole time?
No, I turned it off. I turned it off because they were like chickening out, and I wanted to address them first.
He's hanging from the hover bracers. He looks up at you. Then you can see his eyes are all bloodshot. Maybe there's like a tear of blood like sliding down his face. And he says, you can jack me all day long and I'll never give you what you want.
Quinn looks back at him, and as he goes over to where a camera display is, like where they can see inside, and sort of pulls the plug, he looks back at him and goes, I'm very good at jacking. And that's the last thing he says as he pulls the camera plug.
Nice. Cool. Okay.
You just hear you're just like seeing back to like a corridor, and you just hear like screams.
So I mean, what's the follow up? Do you does the scene end, right? Is it like we get you pull the plug and then the scene switches, or do we get to continue to see what you're up to?
Yeah, there is you for a minute you hear a scream, the sound of him screaming again, and then it cuts back inside, and Quinn is like holding his shoulder, and he's like, keep screaming, and the guy's like just screaming.
I think when you say that, like he's just stopped. You know, like keep screaming. And he looks around. And he's like,
and like Quinn stabs one of his claws into his shoulder a little bit, and the guy's like, right?
Yeah. It goes from like obvious fake shouting to like, ow,
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and so he does that for a little while,
and Quinn looks down at him, and he's like, Baron Marduk, where does that put you in the what is their thing called? What is it's not an empire, is it? What is that?
No, so they're essentially like a collection of like the whole thing is the Agaran war band. They're made up of, there's a bunch of different warlords. There's a high warlord. Baron is actually not his title; it's his first name.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know this. I'm a lizard man.
Exactly. Baron is his first name. He's Warlord Baron Marduk.
Okay.
And war packs, or they identify differently depending on the part of Agar they came from originally. But yeah, the war band would be the thing.
And he sort of like squeezes his shoulder again, so he shouts some more, and he's like, in your war band, does that mean you're in charge of a lot of men?
He nods, and actually, I guess let's see. Are you gonna actively tell him like I'm on your side, or is this just like your weird torture? Because he's not really sure what's going on.
No, I'm slowly trying to reveal a master plan to this guy, that I need him for.
Okay, well, let's see
I've been
if
waiting for someone that I think can actually do something to help me out of this situation.
Okay, let's see if you can convince him that you're on his side.
Sure.
I think you're trying to be clever here.
Okay.
He's not super smart. I'm gonna say difficulty 4.
Great.
It's not that he's not smart. It's just they don't really do the like sneaky politics thing.
They're all aggro all the time.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Barf.
Okay. All right. Now you can re-roll. It's not a bad roll for you. You've only got a +1, so you can re-roll if you have a fate point that you'd like to spend on an aspect, or you can give yourself +2 twice if you want to spend 2 of your points.
Can I use the fact that I want to use everyone hates a lizard man, and that it should be clear to him that I'm not like there's no reason for them to have me here unless they're holding me against my will. Yeah, like they don't like me. These people don't like me. I'm not here because I'm their friend. I'm here because I have something they want.
So the fact that everyone, especially the Mingasi, hate the lizard men should indicate to you or to him that something is wrong here, not that they've just fallen so far. Okay, that makes sense.
And I want to use Blixnort, Legal Guardian, the Last Guardian, because I literally liberated an entire planet. So I feel like that's a story that would have traveled pretty far, and that even a warlord in charge of a giant group like that would be very aware of what happened on Slyn.
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like that would be good enough, I think.
So he recognizes you, right? That's the thing. Okay. So yeah, and then he like moans, and you're like, where does that place you? And then he looks up at you and he's like, wait, I know you. Yes, Thuja mentioned you. You're that lizard man her ex-boyfriend is friends with.
And Quinn immediately looks down at me. He's like, Thuja? You know Thuja?
He nods and he says, she's my niece.
Quinn sort of like hacker jacks at one of the restraints and like rips it free.
Okay. Yeah. So he like drops. Do you free him completely, like both hands? So
just one hand. He can try.
So
and
you
get himself out the other
free his arm, and I think he immediately punches you in the face. Now this isn't a like I want to fight you punch. This is a like he's getting back at you for something punch.
Right, but because I'm a giant lizard man, he punches me and I don't flinch. It's like a punch and I just still look at him.
Yeah. All right, so
like,
he just
you good?
punches you.
Yeah.
And then he says if you're that lizard man, then you're the reason why everything's gone to shit.
Quinn's like, what's happened?
It's like the scepter, you ass. It was fake.
And Quinn sort of does one of those movie stares off into the distance, and he's like, I know. I made a mistake. And like it sort of has like one of those inner movie moments. I made a mistake.
The music just turns sad all of a sudden.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the expert mixing of like Quinn's theme and the Agaran battle theme like kind of blend together to make this sad like minor chord thing. And he says he's like struggling at the chain. He's angry. He gets that you're like, trying to help, but he also wants to get free so he can beat you up because you've made things worse. What do you say?
Yeah, Quinn looks back and he's like, I just don't know who we can trust with this scepter. It's the most powerful thing in the galaxy. I don't know if we can trust you, but I sure as hell know we can't trust these guys. And he undoes his other chain and like holds onto his wrist before he like has a chance to go crazy on him. And he's like, but you can't help because the scepter is on this ship.
So I think that's the moment, right? Where like the scepter is on the ship, and we see his face and his eyes kind of go wide, and the soundtrack goes to like dun dun dun. Basically. Oh, that's so good. Cool. Okay. So yeah, and so I think that's the end of that scene, right? Is that it like you have this thing, you freed him. We'll figure out where the two of you go after that. But let's take a quick break here, and when we get back, we will catch up with Aurora and see where Aurora and Dango ended up. So get ready.
I'm the admiral on another ship.
Yeah, I have my own fleet. Also, I hang out in cool bars, and I own a business. So
I just want you to know I'm a badass.
I got like my dog's now Rockman, but also like I'm a shark kind of.
yeah,
And
And I have the highest bounty ever on me, like way higher
Yeah.
than Rex.
double.
yeah.
I'm kind of
Yes.
a big deal, guys.
I can't wait.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere, everybody. We'll have Big Deal Aurora when we get back. We got lots more Nebula jazz. Stick around.